What up?
KickRocks.com, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, you see the studio, you see where we at,
Hello,
you see
everyone.
the beard, you see the hat.
Hello, everyone.
We got him. Ebro.
Hi,
How you doing, sir?
I'm good, man.
How you day going?
It's good, man. Middle of the day. A few
Yeah.
more hours left before I get to go home, just be with my family for a few, and get up and do it again. But it's almost
You
Friday.
have a daughter.
Yes, I do.
Congratulations.
Yes, I do.
Name.
Thank you. I'm not getting that out there. We just call her Lion
Respect
Baby.
it.
You know what I mean?
Respect
I give people enough of my personal life, so I don't put
Honestly,
it
change you though? Be honest,
Did
be
having
honest.
a daughter change me? Yeah, I think to a degree it changes your level of focus. But I'm 39, so it's not like I kind of tripped and stumbled into having a kid. You know what I'm saying? I planned it. You know what I mean? So I already knew what I was getting into. And then there's things you just don't understand about having a child until you in it, especially if you're heavily involved. Like, the mother, she wanted to breastfeed only, right? So it's not like we have... No, I'm fine if that's what you want. So, just the amount of time every day that you're actually doing that. And then pumping and feeding and the baby waking up.
You don't think about that.
Well, people tell you, but it's not until you're in it till you know what kind of toll it's going to take on you, or the kind of toll it takes on the mother who's trying to make that accomplishment. Because most women who decide to breastfeed, they're doing it for the health of the baby, and also just because, it's just kind of a natural way to go about doing it, and try to make sure your baby is as healthy as possible. And it's good for the woman too. A lot of people women don't breastfeed, but it's actually good for the woman's body to, for the uterus and losing weight, all types of things.
Woman 101 from Ebro.
You know what I mean? Let's not do this. If y'all need any tips, holler at your boy. You know what I'm saying? I'm good. When it comes to breastfeeding, delivering a baby, all that.
Nah,
yo, don't be mad in the back of the room.
It got real crazy, right?
But see, listen, it's a perfect example. We was talking off there, you were saying how people always hate on me.
Right.
You saw it firsthand. I made an accomplishment, right? Something that I'm proud of.
Exactly.
That I decided to share with people.
And you got a little hate.
And in the room, people was like, oh my God, this dude. Why wouldn't I be proud of my accomplishment?
You should be proud of that.
Right? And why wouldn't I want to share my accomplishment?
It helped me out.
So why the hate? So you say why the hate?
I'm with you on this one.
It's because I'm light skinned.
Nino beige.
That's fine too.
You like that one?
Whatever it is. Nino never liked light skinned niggas anyway.
He said it
in the movie. I never liked you light skinned motherfuckers anyway.
You from Berkeley. Like, you from California.
Yes.
And it's very legitimate to say that you really run New York right now. As far as I'm not an artist. I'm not gonna catch any beef. You run the radio as far as New York right now.
I work at a radio station that has a lot of influence on mainstream music in New York.
Nicely put.
Yes.
Nicely put.
Because there's a lot of different things that happen in a city this size.
Right.
There's the club scene. There's definitely the internet world. There's a lot of things that happen in the underground that, they ain't on the radio yet. And those things are places where I go to learn and find what's new and popping. You know what I mean?
You have oldies in you. You have the Cali underground background. You have the New York, background artists that you dealt with since you've been here in the 90s. How do you think you having those bicoastal relationships help you as Ebro? As being able to tell artists, listen, this is what you need to do because I've been here, I'm running things here, and from looking at both coasts, I can give you this advice and get you this point.
I think a lot of that is time in the game. I don't know if I could even attribute that to
20 years? No?
20, yeah, almost 25. I don't know if I could say that that's because I'm from both places. I think the one thing that I can say is where we are today in the consumption of content and music, there aren't really regional boundaries like there used to.
Thanks to the internet.
Right, because of social media and internet. So I think because I've lived multiple places and been a part of different scenes in hip-hop as well as worked in mainstream media for so long, I do have a different global perspective about how the regular person likes to enjoy music.
Correct.
Right? So I think maybe that's the filter that kind of helps me navigate and figure out what's happening and when it's happening. So yeah, I mean, I would say that. You know, I mean, I've been doing this most of my life now at this point. So
now I was curious because you had different avenues you could have traveled. You could have practically had monkeys flipping in your backyard like your boy in Vegas, right? And you could have done football things. But you chose radio. Like,
well, radio chose me.
Okay.
I got injured in football, so that wasn't gonna happen. And then I just being a kid that was doing parties and hustling and being in the mall and meeting girls and having to hook up on clothes and doing all that, met people in radio and was able to work my way up through the ranks at radio. But I think that happened for several things. I wasn't afraid to put in the time.
Right.
I was always making sure that I was available when opportunities presented themselves. And I think also you got to be able. There's one thing to be available, but the other part of being is able, right? Like, are you able to accomplish the task when the opportunity is presented to you?
You got to be prepared for that, right?
So you got to be prepared. So I think just because, and for me, I loved hip hop. Hip hop was for me the music, like you said, because I come from a mixed background and where I grew up. We was in the BMX, we was in the skate culture, we was in the graffiti, we was in the break dancing, we was into DJing, we was in the MCing, we was into all of the street culture, because all that is street culture,
exactly,
right?
Yeah.
Whether it was white kids, black kids, whatever, it was all street culture to us. So we was into all of it, and then complicate that with, the Spanish influence in California, as well as the black music influence, Sly and the Family Stone, and things that come from the Bay Area, Tony, and all of that, and the Black Panthers and all of that music as well. Complicated with just hip hop in general, that's pulled musically from so many different things. And I think people forget that hip hop music, the reason it's lasted so long is because it happened. It was like the perfect storm, right?
Exactly.
In the late 70s, you had computers being made that were the beginnings of electronic music and music being made on synthetically, not acoustically. So that was happening. Simultaneously, you also had this generations of successful music in America based on the black music that was brought to us through blues and gospel music, that became R&B, that became disco, that became funk, that became all of these, country music, and all of these other forms of music had kind of blossomed. So late 70s going into the 80s, you had all these different forms, and then here comes these young kids from the hood that loved all that music.
One day home.
And wanted a way to identify themselves, not just based on being black.
Exactly.
They wanted to identify themselves based on geographically where they grew up, and all of the music that influenced them, from jazz to blues to funk to pop to everything, and that's what hip-hop was. So sometimes we forget that that's the humble beginnings of this music was really inclusive of so many different cultures that, people try, specifically black people, and this is just the way we are, we take ownership. This is ours. This is our shit.
Right.
Right? And it is. That's where it started. But once it gets big, and if you love something, sometimes you got to let it go and it becomes everybody's shit. Right. And obviously you hold on to it like, nah, there's rules to this shit. Like, you know what I mean?
Definitely got to pick.
And I'm one of those people that get a lot of heat because I'm always like, nah, be musically, not even hip-hop. Before we even get to the hip-hop part, if you're going to make music, there's rules to understand how to make music, in my opinion. And then there's rules to understand how you're going to make a song. And then there's rules to being in this hip-hop culture and being an MC. And then there's other rules and things when it comes to making, wanting to become a mainstream act. You know what I'm saying? Right. It's like I always say, the best basketball players ain't in the NBA. And people be like, what the fuck you talking about? Basically what I'm saying is you could be dope. And you could be better than Michael Jordan. Right. But that don't mean you're going to be in the NBA. To be in the NBA, you got to play by certain rules and guidelines and certain things. You got to be able to play in a system. And, when you decide to go mainstream and you decide to get to the major leagues, there's systems.
Boy, you get in trouble with that word.
Systems?
Major league.
Who, me? I knew what I was doing when I set it off on these dudes. You know what I mean?
Calculated, right?
Always.
Always?
I mean, I pick specific people to mention. because I knew they represented something that people were passionate about.
That was you touch a chord with that.
Well, and I thought it was
Who are you to say I'm not major league?
I mean, I'm the guy sitting at a mainstream radio station
Exactly.
that's watching your music not get embraced by the mainstream.
Right.
It is embraced, and you're awesome at your craft, right? But that don't mean you're gonna play for the Yankees.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
The crowd.
And you may and by the way, you may not want to. You might be happy where you are, paying your bills, taking care of your family. You have your fan base, and you good, great, wonderful. But if we're gonna have a conversation about what goes mainstream and what doesn't, I find it interesting that people are so consumed with being underground, but always wondering what's happening with the mainstream. So do you really want to be underground, or do you really want to be mainstream? Because if you want to be underground, you shouldn't be concerned about what Hot97's doing.
I think it's perception. I think it's like, you know, like it's like talking to your boy and you guys call each other like certain names or whatever, and then somebody from the outside here is like, "Oh, you let him call you that?" So it's like they know they're not major league,
but because it's coming
from you, now it's like you calling me minor league, and it becomes a problem. But getting back to radio, like.